Hey everyone.
Hi.
No, not you, them. Who? Never mind. Hey, look, they're all messed up. You go out like that? It's disgusting. Have some self-respect. So here's the deal. As I put together these videos and as I put together live streams and so forth, I often kind of wonder, hey, you know what? Am I being creative and engaging, or am I just being a jackass? I really don't know.
You don't know?
I have a feeling you're going to tell me.
Maybe.
All right, fine, whatever. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to host a debate and figure out whether or not these sort of creative, sort of weird things are really the right thing to do. So this guy right here,
Hey there.
he's going to take the side that this is absolutely, utterly ridiculous, while this guy here, hi, he's going to take the side that, no, actually, there's something to this, and I should continue to explore it. So let's see what happens. So tell me what you think.
Well, first of all, you really don't even know what you're doing. I mean, look, your lips are still moving.
Well, I know my lips are moving. I don't know how to throw my voice or anything.
Exactly. So you're trying to do stuff that, frankly, you don't even know how to do in the first place.
Well, that's not fair because the way you learn to do these things is by actually doing them.
Yeah, but he's not even trying.
Okay. Guys, let's bring this back to center. What about the creative, sort of innovative, weird things I'm trying to do to make these videos interesting? Well, personally, I think it's a good idea because let's face it, the vast majority of students are really just looking at a box with a video and a dull, dry voice, and it's just not very interesting. Face it, most of your students are just multitasking anyway. If you can give them something fun and interesting, maybe they'll pay attention.
Well, yes, maybe they'll pay attention, but there's a big difference between paying attention and learning.
Yeah, but if they're not paying attention in the first place, they can't learn. So you at least have to do that.
Okay, but what if they're paying attention so much that they're fixated on what he's doing? They're not listening to the content, they're not trying to learn it, they're not trying to process it. They're really just watching and rolling their eyes.
Well, okay, so maybe that's the case with some of them.
Some of them, my guess is that this stuff is pretty extreme and most people find it pretty weird.
Yeah, but he has to experiment and try different things to see what works and what doesn't. You just don't wake up one day and are a fantastic videographer.
Videographer? He's a lecturer.
Yeah, okay, you get my point.
Well, maybe.
So, all right, those are some pretty good points. Let's face it, maybe you are paying attention, but maybe it's so cringy that you're like unable to pay attention to the material. I get it. But is that all there is to it? Well, I don't think so, because different people learn in different ways, and maybe this is a way of tapping into different parts of the brain, imagination, creativity, innovation, things like that.
Well, okay, maybe, but still, hand puppets? I mean, dude, we're pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll give you that. All right, so maybe not hand puppets, but it's a really good point. I try different things, I see what works, I see what doesn't, and sometimes it sticks to the wall and sometimes it doesn't. The spaghetti. Spaghetti?
What do you mean?
Well, you throw it against the wall and, okay, never mind. It's how you see if it's done. Does it work with pudding? No. Don't throw pudding against the wall. So, in any case, interesting debate, I guess. I'll have to mull it over a little bit and see where it goes. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get this started. Started indeed. Hey, welcome everyone. Good morning. Hope your Monday is treating you well so far. You know, it's just the beginning of the week, but as I remind myself, Mondays come every 7 days. It's like clockwork, right? So you might as well just get used to it because Mondays are going to happen. Looks like we've got folks joining us. That is fantastic. We have Izzy and Andrea and Adrian. And of course, Scott is with us. That is great. And I know others are coming in as we go along. So that's great. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk Vikings. Now, by the way, I'm just going to tell you, if you have not yet done the reading for this is pretty much going to take care of it for you, right? We're going to actually do a lot of the reading today as we go along, and I love it. So, Laura, I'm with you. I think I know I geek out, people. I really do. I am so lucky I get to do what I love. And that includes looking at this stuff in a new way. You know, when I first started teaching this class years ago, back then it wasn't OER, meaning the readings were not included in Canvas. They were in a book, right? And I showed my wife the book and all these ancient readings and Plato and Aristotle and all these old things and so forth, and talking about Vikings and syndicates and so forth. And my wife looked at it and said, "Oh, that looks like a special kind of hell class." And so now today, years and years later, whenever I say what I'm teaching today, as I say, oh, well, I have my communications class and then I have my special hell class. To her, she's not into this sort of thing. Now, mind you, she has a master's degree in radiological technology and sciences and so forth. She's medicine, right? She's in the medical field. She's not into all this weird sort of, looking back and analyzing how we think about something. Me, I love this stuff. So, Laura, I'm glad you're looking forward to this because I find it really fascinating. So, we're talking about Vikings, but here's the thing, people. Business hasn't changed that much. Now, you remember when we did the egg, my borrowing an egg from a neighbor or a neighbor borrowing an egg from me. And I made the case that that was in fact a very sophisticated business transaction. It dealt with just-in-time inventories. It dealt with, consignment costs and so forth. It dealt with interest payments, all that kind of stuff. It was a sophisticated business transaction, just borrowing an egg. And then we talked about the Sumerians and the nomads. And I made the case that that is a really, really sophisticated production and distribution network going on there. And that global trade has been going on since there was a globe around which to trade. All right. Well, it's sort of the same thing. Hang on, where's my mouse? There's my mouse. It's sort of the same thing with the Vikings. We're going to talk about what the Vikings really kind of started, but you're going to notice it's pretty much the way we do business today. All right? So once again, we're looking at yesterday through the lens of today to see what applies and so forth. All right? So, with that, let's play. All right. Now, I'm a dude, which means that when I think of Vikings, I am morally obligated to think of Vikings, kill, crush, destroy, rape, pillage, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you know what? Okay, they did some of that. But more than just go out there and pillage, these were the original global traders. I mean, big time. big time, right? You know, Adrian, I actually started watching that show a little bit. I ought to take another look at it. Yeah, so Laura's telling everyone, if everybody's watched the Vikings on the History Channel, they project their trade routes like no other. Great, great sort. Okay, so right away, boom, we've got awesome comment and a contributor. We have another contributor, and we have Adrian agreeing that it's a great show and it's a real life example. And so, excellent. All right, we're getting there. So, yeah, Vikings are traders. All right, Vikings are traders. So, we're going to learn a little bit about that and explore that. But to do this, I want to start with a Christmas tree farm. Okay, trust me, this is going to go somewhere. All right. So, what I want to ask you is, if you want to start a Christmas tree farm and actually make it viable, meaning you're going to make money off of this, okay, what are all the things you need to consider? Now, trust me, there's more than we could ever list in 2 minutes, all right? But I want you to, obviously you need seeds and so on and so forth, but I want you to think about, what does it take to get a Christmas tree farm from, I'm going to plant this darn thing, to I am making money on it year after year after year, okay? So think about everything that goes into a Christmas tree farm, and we are going to use this as an example throughout the lecture, all right? So let's play with this. Okay, excellent. So what we're going to do right off is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We got a whole bunch of great comments there, so we're going to go ahead and add some points there. We got a couple of new contributors, right? So that is fantastic. All right, and these are all some real-world examples. Great. So let's play with these, right? Let's take a look at them. So, Adrian said soil, healthy seeds, market, having trees ready for the season. Okay, good, good, good. Telling people trees need marketing, distribution. Okay, so we're going to write down the core elements of these, right? So we've got land, right? Core elements, let's see, ready for the season. So the season comes up once a year, right? And so you want to make sure you have trees ready for the season, right? Very good. You also need distribution, right? You need a market. Excellent, excellent. Let's see. So let's go on to Scott. You need to make sure you don't have a drought that comes along, right? So you gotta build in risk contingencies. Okay, risk contingencies around that drought, Scott. Very good. You also hope that people keep celebrating Christmas, right? Very good. Land, fertilizers, truck, staff, okay? So Laura is taking us to the staff level. Very good. Places to sell it, right? Market, places. Nice, nice. Okay, guys, check out Izzy's. You would need time. All right, trees take time to grow. Okay, Izzy, okay, very good. You need to think about this. So first of all, it takes about 7 years to grow a tree, 5 to 7 years, all right? And you want to have them ready every year. So you don't just plant all of your space in one season. You divide your space, and you can't really see that, I apologize, into 7 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get the idea. And you plant each year so that every year you can go ahead and harvest one area. All right? Excellent. Very good. Let's see. Alma, fertilizer, right? Yeah, and a few of you have brought up fertilizer. Very good. So that's something you need to bring in. Fertilizer. Very good. Reliable set of buyers. Absolutely. The market. Okay, guys, check this out. Here are the things that you identified, right? You need time. You need to segment out how you're going to plant your land. You need to make sure that you're ready to go each season. You need a distribution channel. You need markets and places where you can sell these things reliably. Christian areas, right? You need to understand that there's risk involved. Droughts, pirates, smugglers, bugs, right? Things like that. You need staff and you need fertilizer. All right. Excellent. Excellent, right? So, by the way, we are just taking those comments up to 10. And I'm sure our contributors are at least 8. Okay? So, you know what that means. You want to email me the timestamp after the lecture. The timestamp is 10/12. 10/12. That is going to be our timestamp. Oh, hey, wrong. I pushed some button. Didn't mean to push. All right. Okay, we want to think about all this now, all right? Because what you guys just figured out is what the Vikings were figuring out. All right, so let's take a look at this. As I said, we're going to be doing a lot of reading. I apologize for that. The good news is that means that this takes care of the reading for you. But we're going to break it up and kind of analyze it. Remember, analyzing it, critical thinking? All right, so let's first talk about syndicates, all right? Now, a syndicate is when organizations work together to conduct some type of business in order to pursue and promote their collective interests. Now, yes, we have crime syndicate and drug syndicate and so on and so forth, but a syndicate is really just when different organizations all agree to combine their efforts for mutual benefit. Business partnerships, okay? All right, so with that in mind, let's take a look at this. The early combinations, a combination is just a fancy word for an agreement, an organization, a syndicate, all right? Combination, people coming together, all right. The early combinations were relatively small and transient. Transient means very short-lived, all right? They're gone, they're here one day, gone the next. So, for example, during the Christmas trees, right? You see these Christmas tree sellers in parking lots, right? So they pay whoever owns that parking lot a fee to be able to set up the trees. They sell them for 3 weeks and then they're gone. That's what we mean by transient, okay? So early combinations were small and transient. They took the form of gentlemen's agreements, pools, working arrangements, division of territory, etc., rather than hard and fast syndicates. These are just people doing each other favors. Okay, that's how it started. And you guys do that sort of thing. I do that sort of thing. Very, point in time. However, in the early days, a combine, an organization, would be formed for a season between two or more capitalist undertakers, for the most part employing their own capital only. Hey, listen, let's say, for example, that, I get together with a few of you to say, hey, you know what? I want to do an end of semester video. Can you guys help me? We get together and do that, our own resources. Without recourse to credit, although credit arrangements occur quite early, but they are not very common in the early recorded phases of trade. All right, so let's just summarize this. Couple of folks are getting together very informally. We're just applying our own cash to this joint venture that we're doing. It's a gentleman's agreement. I'll bring my resources, you bring your resources. We'll do this for a short season and we'll be in great shape. That's how things kind of started out, okay? Well, that's how they started. Syndication of an increasingly close texture, increasingly permanent effect appears to have rapidly grown in favor through the 9th and 10th centuries. Don't worry about 9th and 10th centuries. The point is, they're getting more complicated. The reasons for this movement of coalition are plain. The volume of trade as well as its territorial extension increased uninterruptedly. Yeah, I can speak. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, here's the thing, guys. Let's say that you and I get together to do a couple of small little videos, right? Maybe, let's say we're doing some videos about how to succeed in school. And we make it, you bring your skills and resources, I bring my skills and resources. We put these things up, they make a little bit of money, we split the money, and we're good. Okay, that's small. But you know what? Other colleges and universities and faculty start to use these videos, and they want more customized videos. And then we start to realize, well, heck, we have a pretty good thing going here. Maybe we need to start a company, and maybe we can get some credit, and then maybe we can start like translating them into Spanish and other languages so other people can use them. In other words, and you guys already know this, business is you grow or die. It's really kind of a, well, I don't want to say it's kind of a dogma, meaning you can't question it, but you can. But in general, businesses grow or die. If you do not ever expand, then you will not meet the market need, and then everything will pitter away. And so that's what these Vikings are kind of finding, is they're doing each other favors, but now they're growing, okay? All right, so, well, wrong button. Let's get the right button. Okay. All right. The quasi-voluntary coalition of forces known as a trust. Okay, let's define trust. And then we're going to come back to this quasi-voluntary thing, right? So a trust is a business organization or a group of businessmen or traders organized for mutual benefit to produce and distribute specific commodities or services, all managed by a central body of trustees. Okay, so what this means in terms of Vikings is Vikings are realizing we need a lot of resources to make this work, right? And you guys know that because you guys already pointed that out, being as clever as you are. We need land. We need distribution channels. We need market. We need access to ports, places, right? We need, security, ergo the Viking swords, right? We need staff. Distribution means shipping routes and ships themselves. We need fertilizer. We need access to these things and so forth. And so the Vikings said, all right, we're going to put together these trusts to make sure that we always have access from cradle to grave to everything we need. This is what today we call a supply chain, feeding into a distribution chain. From the time that something is taken out of the ground to the time that it's sold to the customer, you've got your whole supply and distribution chain going along here. That's what the Vikings are doing. Now, I want to come back to this thing of quasi-voluntary. Sometimes you didn't have a choice, right? The Vikings, they could be, let's just say, persuasive. If you had access to land or materials or people or fertilizer or ports and so forth that they wanted, they'd come along and say, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse, right? And that offer is, you're going to be part of this trust or we're going to kill you, all right? Now, does that sort of thing happen today? Maybe not kill you, but companies do come along, great big huge companies come along to little companies and say, hey, listen, you're gonna play ball with us, or we're gonna price you out of the market, right? A story. Let me just tell you a story. I'm sorry, I need to tell you a story. So my father, he's living in Telluride at the time, and there's this guy there who made these really nice chairs. And Walmart came along and said to this person, we would like to carry your chairs at the local Walmart. Okay, Walmart does that. And this is how much we're willing to pay you for the chairs. Well, obviously the price was really low. It's Walmart after all. And the guy figured, you know what? I can't make the chairs at that volume, at that price, and still make money. So he had to tell Walmart no. Well, that's fine. It's a free market. But then Walmart found somebody else who said yes. And lo and behold, there was a chair offered at Walmart that was awfully similar, and that affected this guy's business, right? So sometimes you have to play ball whether you want to or not. All right, let's continue. So now, one of the things, and you guys pointed this out, the board's right over there. You guys pointed this out. You have to have a period of turnover or a period of production. The Vikings were very good at this, all right? The amount of money taken as sales transacted in a calendar year, or the frequency with which stock is replaced after being used or sold, workers are replaced after leaving a property, blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? Well, it means, okay, listen, we're only going to be selling these Christmas trees once a year. That's it. You're selling these things for 3 weeks out of the year, right? Which means you need to make sure that you are ready to go for each one of those periods of turnover, right? You guys pointed out you need to make sure you have trees ready so that they are set on that year. So, but here's the thing. That also means that you only need staff, a full staff at certain periods of time. It also means that you need a huge, I'm going to move this on back, you need a huge initial investment, okay? This initial investment, you got to get the land, you got to, get the ships, you got to set up the distribution and so forth. But you're not going to make a full return on that investment for years and years and years, okay? And so the Vikings are calculating all this. They're figuring out periods of production, when they need to staff up, when they're going to staff down. Many of you have probably had seasonal jobs. You know, I'll give you real world example points. Raise your hand if you've ever had a seasonal job that peaked around Christmas and so on and so forth. Well, that's them calculating for their periods of production. All right? So we've got that going on. All right. But then we also have this thing of sunk cost. Now, sunk cost is a cost that has already been incurred and which cannot be recovered to any significant degree if the business venture fails. Okay, so let's talk about that. So Scott said, well, heck, these bad boys can really suffer if there's a drought. And I threw in there, well, you might also have bugs and pests. They can be a real problem. And you might lose an entire crop. You can't get that money back. You can't get it back. That is what we call a sunk cost. And so you need to put in place risk mitigation to make sure that, to the extent possible, these sort of things don't happen. And so you want to make sure that you have security forces. You want to make sure that you have access to backup water. You want to make sure that you have the best fertilizers and all that sort of stuff. But even then, you need to be prepared to take a loss. And so before, when they weren't using credit and everybody was just using their own money, well, you take a loss of your own money, okay, that's fine. But now you're taking a loss of investors' money. And investors need to be prepared to take a loss, all right? That's a new idea, a new concept. With great reward comes great risk, blah, 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 okay? All right. Now, accumulation of capital goods. They started to really accumulate capital goods. Let's define this. Produced goods that are chiefly used in production of further goods, okay? In contrast to goods produced for consumption, such as consumer goods. All right, so let me give you an example. This juggling ball, right? This is a finished good, all right? It is meant to be consumed, used by the customer, right? End customer. But these balls are made of, oh, I pushed a button. These balls are made of leather. They've gone through chemical treatment. They're made of seeds. They're made of thread, things like that. These are all capital goods, goods that are not meant to be used by the consumer directly, but meant to be used in the production of goods that are used by the customer, okay? All right, so here's the question I have for you then, is this is kind of what you would call B2B, business to business, supplying capital goods to other businesses who would then use those goods to produce consumer goods. Now, give me your thoughts. Why do you think the Vikings would focus on B2B goods versus finished customer goods? All right? Give me your thoughts on that and let's play with that idea. Okay, very good, very good. We're getting a whole bunch. I'm going to just mark off a whole bunch of things right now. I know that we are now at 10 contributors. We've got a couple of people saying I agree and so forth, and we have a couple of real world examples. So that is absolutely, let's see, I want that one. Very, very good. All right, we're going to continue to stack up these points and so forth for you. So now with that, let's go ahead and look at these because you guys are really good. So Mauricio says less risk, and that's something that Izzy agreed with. It is, in fact, less risk. Here's the thing about a raw product. You can use it in many, many, many things. And so if the market goes out in one area, you can transfer to another. So if we come to my juggling ball, let's say that the market falls out on juggling balls. Nobody's using juggling balls. Well, now you can't sell juggling balls. However, the leather and the seeds and the thread and the chemicals you can use to make shoes, jackets, hats, you name it. And so it's much easier to shift materials from product to product if you're just selling the capital goods versus if you're selling the finished good. So yes, I would agree as well, less risk. You know, Adrian says there's more profit there, very good. And then Laura says, let's see, more access to certain items in which they could make into finished goods. Yes. And remember, when others make things into finished goods, they create more value. Yeah. Adam, the most work they could do is collect the capital goods and distribute. They wouldn't have to make anything, and other businesses could be dependent on them, you know, to depend on them, right? Okay, this is good. So think of this out, right? What are the Vikings really, really, really good at? Getting materials and distribution, okay? All right, so let's focus on our core competency. The Vikings are focusing on their core competency, which is the accumulation of goods, access to these goods, and distribution and security, right? Security meaning they can protect it and take it and force people and all that sort of stuff. That's their core competency. And so since they have created these huge trade routes, and they did create massive trade routes, others are highly dependent upon them, right? Adam points this out. Others are dependent upon them, so they have to use the Vikings' materials. Whereas if they did finished goods, they would not have the same power in the economy, okay? Let's see. Yeah, risk factors, absolutely. Very good, yes. Be reliable, smaller investment as well. That's a good point. Yeah, very good. You guys are totally with it, right? So that's what they're doing. They are creating these trade routes. Now, let's talk about that, okay? So we're going to read about Vikings, but I want you to kind of see how this could apply to Amazon as well. So we're going to go through this kind of line by line. For the business venture to be successful, certain technological prerequisites must be met. In the particularly way of shipbuilding, all right, we're going to come back to that one, navigation, and the manufacture of weapons, an adequate accumulation of capital goods, right, must be had, coupled with sagacious spirit of adventure that must also be an available supply of labor. Okay, let me show you how this totally could be applied to Amazon right now. All right, so I'm going to get a different color. I'm going to get this bad boy. Certain technological prerequisites, shipbuilding. Well, they need ships to distribute the things, right? Amazon uses aircraft and trucks. In fact, Amazon is building its own airline and has its own fleet of trucks. Now, in the past, they would use USPS or UPS or FedEx, but you've noticed now that it's Amazon trucks going around. It's not, it's not all UPS, it's not all FedEx. It's now Amazon trucks. And they're doing the same thing with their aircraft. They are building their own ships. Okay, let's keep going. Navigation. Have you noticed how when you order something on Amazon, they say it's out for delivery? It's 10 stops away. Do you want to see where it is on the map? And you go, well, yes, I do, right? GPS has allowed Amazon to be insanely efficient in their deliveries, okay? Manufacture of weapons. All right, when it comes to Amazon, this means security, all right? Now, in the past, how would we get security? Well, we would build our armies and we would, have ships going around to protect against pirates and bandits and so forth. Now we have governments. Now we have laws. Now, even there, we still have to deal with bandits and pirates and so on. But today, many, laws, rules, regulations, and governments have been put into place to make sure that things are secure. Nevertheless, you better bet your last dollar that Amazon has invested tons in cybersecurity. So they're not manufacturing weapons, they are manufacturing cybersecurity, features and functionality. Okay. Adequate accumulation of capital goods. All right, how does Amazon work? Amazon works by just covering the country in fulfillment centers. Okay, we have a fulfillment center out by the airport. Now, I'm accentuating that word for a reason, airport. So Amazon puts these fulfillment centers all over the countries, strategically located near airports. Well, what did the Vikings do? The Vikings had fulfillment centers set up all around the world next to seaports and river ports. You see what I'm saying? The Vikings and Amazon are doing the exact same thing. They set up these distribution and fulfillment centers all around their region, and they're strategically located next to ports. Just happens to be airports for us, right? That way, Amazon can get the goods to people quickly and efficiently, and that's what the Vikings were doing. And that especially was good when it came to making sure that things were available outside of season and so on. Now, you and I are used to having bananas and pineapple whenever we want bananas and pineapple. But that's because of awesome distribution and fulfillment technologies and strategies. The Vikings were doing this. Okay, coupled with a sagacious spirit of adventure. Today, the word we have for sagacious spirit of adventure is entrepreneurialism. Okay, sagacious means wise. So, a sage is a wise person. So sagacious means wise. Sagacious spirit of adventure meaning, hey, are you willing to take risks? Are you entrepreneurial? Are you willing to kind of go for the big gold ring and win the Cupid doll and all kinds of other things, right? There must also be an available supply of labor. Companies do this all the time. They figure out where do we want to put our companies, our headquarters, our fulfillment centers, all based on the idea of where is there a sufficient labor supply, okay? Amazon decided that Salt Lake County had a sufficient labor supply. Point of the mountain at Silicon Slopes, they decided that there was sufficient labor supply for the tech industry to build that and so on. Companies are always looking for that. So what we've got right here was written about the Vikings, but it could be totally applied to Amazon. nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. I just wig out at that stuff. I find that fascinating. Okay, now let's shift. Well, it's still the same reading, but let's look at how this succeeded, and let's look at how it failed. All right. So some of the questions that you're going to have in your assignments and so forth say, hey, what about Palnatoke and the corporation? And I hope that Palnatoke is how you pronounce it. I really don't know, but we'll find out. All right. So here's one of the things that, kind of a story of the first corporation. Again, we want to look at this through the lens of today. Now, by the way, it's going to make this guy sound amazing and fantastic and incredible. Well, you know what? We do the same thing. Oh, Elon Musk. Oh, Steve Jobs, right? I mean, we really revere and put upon a pedestal these grand entrepreneurs, right? Well, we're doing the same darn thing back then. All right. As may often happen in like conjecture, when the irksomeness of the competitive situation in the Baltic was fast becoming intolerable. Okay, let me explain all that. Fiefdoms, tribes going to war, robbing each other. They were spending more money trying to protect what they had than they were in actually getting what they have and selling it and so forth. So it was not sustainable. All these little tribes and governments always fighting, all right? It was unsustainable, intolerable. There arose a man of far-seeing sagacity and settled principles, of executive ability and business-like integrity, who saw the need of the hour and available remedy, and who saw at the same glance his own opportunity of gain. All right, there's the whole, oh, Elon Musk, right, stuff. All right, so this guy saw the situation and saw a solution and saw how he could make money from the solution. All right? This man was Palnatoke. He was a man of mature experience with a large investment in the traffic and with a body of goodwill that gave him perhaps the most decisive advantage. All right, so what does this tell you? It says if you want to be entrepreneurial and you want to start a business, here are some things that you need. You need to have some experience, all right? Some mature experience. Guys, I am not making this up, all right? I'm not making this up. Many venture capitalists, many people who invest in new businesses will not invest in a new business until they know that you have first failed in another, okay? Now, why would they invest in somebody who has failed? Because they know that failure is not only an option, it's pretty Shark Tank, totally. They know that failure is going to happen. It's how you learn. You did not learn to walk on your first try. You did not learn to ride a bicycle on your first try. You did not learn to drive a car on your first try. You didn't learn makeup on your first try. You failed. And so mature experience is saying, you've gone through this, you know what you're doing. Okay, so first you want that. Large investment in traffic, you need to know about your product. You need to know about your service. You need to be an expert in that field. And with a body of goodwill that gave him perhaps the most decisive advantage. People need to trust you and see you as ethical and moral and somebody who's going to make good decisions for the right people at the right time. Those are things that investors are looking for. Mature experience, you failed before, expertise in the field where you're trying to start a business, and a sense of credibility and trust and ethics that people feel in you. Okay, so no different, no different. All right, let's keep going. Palnatoke seems to have cast about his eyes for a basis upon which to promote an internal coalition of Vikings, such as would put an end to headlong competition and would at the same time be placed above the accidents of national politics. To this end, it was necessary to find a neutral ground on which to establish home office of the concern. What? Okay, let me explain. All right, he says, listen, we're all competing with each other, and that's not helping anyone. We really ought to combine forces. Now, by the way, companies do this all the time. Compete, 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 and lo and behold, these two competitors merge. You see this in, say, like the cell phone market all the time. Didn't T-Mobile just buy Sprint or something like that? I think it was T-Mobile and Sprint, all right? Point is, this happens all the time. Satellite radio, and is it good? I'm glad I got that one right. So, hey, so you're validating my real world examples, so thank you. The point is they compete, and they say, you know what, we're spending too damn much money on competition. Let's merge and we'll be stronger together. So that's common, right? So he's talking about that. He's also saying, hey, we need a neutral port. Accidents of national politics. I love the way that the author Veblen says accident of national politics. National politics are totally mercurial, meaning they change on a whim, right? We don't want to have to worry about a place that changes constantly. We want a good, solid, neutral place where we can set things up and be secure. Well, what does that mean today? Let's see. I think it's Delaware. I think Delaware is the state where like a ton of companies are incorporated. I don't know if I'm right. Maybe some of you know about that. But everybody for a long time was incorporated in Delaware because it was just kind of seen as this neutral spot. The tax laws were low and basic and straightforward. It's easy to incorporate there. And since these companies are doing business all over the country and all over the world, well, where are you going to incorporate so that you're not playing favorites, right? Maybe Texas is the place now, right? I remember the scene in, I'm a Star Trek fan, in the Star Trek, I forget which one it was, but when they look at the snow globe in space, he's like, well, look at that monstrosity. Why didn't we just find a planet to build on? And, it might, we may not seem neutral and might increase anxieties if we build on a planet. Better to build a neutral place ourselves, right? Okay, so to this end, he was necessary to find a neutral ground, right, so that we could go ahead and set up there. All right, so he continues on. Palnatoke organized his company and strengthened the harbor. Here, the new company was incorporated under a special franchise from the Wendish crown with the stipulation that it was to do business only outside the Wendish territories. All right, so what does that mean? And where do we see this today? All right, so he went and set up his company under the auspices of the Wendish crown, right? So their security and their blessings and so forth. And so now he has security and he has the backing of a government that is kind of neutral. Now, the agreement was that they would do business only outside Wendish territories. Why? Because the crown is protecting their own economy. We've already got people that provide the goods and services that you want to provide, dear Palnatoke, and we don't want to hurt our own industry. So you can go ahead and set up shop here, but you operate outside of us, right? Now, why would they allow Palnatoke to set it up? Because they're going to get tax dollars. So, and furthermore, you're going to bring more and more businesses in to support Palnatoke's corporation. Look at Point of the Mountain. It used to just be Thanksgiving Point. Now everything is building up out there because business attracts business. So the Windish Crown gets this. They understand it. Okay. Together with the ships and other equipment, tangible assets such as Vikings were admitted to fellowship. Its intangible assets into its franchise and the goodwill of the promoter and underlying companies. Its bylaws were very strict, both as to the discipline of the personnel and as to the distribution of earnings. The promoter, who was the first president of the corporation, was given extreme powers for the enforcement of the bylaws. And throughout his long incumbency of office, he has exercised his powers with the greatest discretion and most salutary effect. What does that mean? They set up rules. They set up articles of incorporation. And those articles of incorporations were enforced probably with extreme prejudice, right? And those articles of incorporation included how goods and how profits were going to be distributed. So everybody knew what was going on, everybody knew what was expected, and everybody shared in the wealth. This is a corporation. This neutral international corporation of piracy rapidly won in great prestige. In modern phase, its intangible assets grew rapidly. Everything was great and fantastic. Okay? All right. Now, Palnatoke made it work. But Sigvaldi screwed it up. All right? We're going to end with how Sigvaldi screwed it up. And he screwed it up in the same way that we screw it up today. Nothing's changed. All right, let's check this out. The trust, moreover, being supreme within its field, we are so good at what we do, nobody can touch us. We're IBM, we're Kodak, we are Apple before iPod, right? We're Windows. Nobody can touch us. We're so good. The discipline grew lax and its exactions grew arbitrary, sometimes going to unprovoked excess. Okay, what does this mean? They got lazy. They spent money where they didn't need to. They made stupid business decisions. And they spent money on excess that they didn't need. Private jets, private boats, vacation areas in Caribbean, big, huge chandeliers from, Venice in their hallways. Just stupid spending, right? As one might say, too little thought was given to the economies of production, and the charges were pushed beyond what the traffic would bear. In other words, they were just forgetting about being efficient, forget about really paying attention to how they made their money, and paying attention to what the market wanted and the market needs. And they just grew fat and stupid, all right? And it all fell apart. Here's a quote we're going to end on. Can you believe it? 50 miles from a McDonald's. I didn't think there was anywhere in the world that was 50 miles from a McDonald's. Neil Gaiman, right? Yeah, net loss every quarter. Absolutely. So, yeah, McDonald's is the Vikings, right? We see this everywhere. Right? Yeah, he is, Scott. Absolutely. Yeah. The dream, oh gosh, I can't think of it right now. His Dream series, whatever that's called. Okay. So everyone, excellent work today. You did fantastic. You're going to send me your timestamp, and I'll take care of you there. And when we come back on Wednesday, what are we talking about Wednesday? I forget what we're talking about, but I'll do my best to make it good for you. All right? So everyone, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you for your contributions. As always, you're on fire. And have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on Wednesday. All right? We'll see you.